أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The 15th day of the month of Ramadan, year 2 after Hijrah. In another narration, year 3 after Hijrah, marks the birthday of our second Imam, Al-Imam Al-Hassan Al-Zaki Al-Mujtaba, alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam. Imam Al-Hassan was the first son to Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima al-Zahra, and the first grandson to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He lived 7 years under his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, under his grandfather's leadership. He lived 30 years under the leadership of his father Imam Ali alayhi salam, and 10 years as Imam himself. When the Imam died, he was either 47 years old or 48 years old. And he was poisoned by his wife, Ju'da, as we shall mention at the end of the lecture. When Imam Al-Hassan was born on the 15th day of Ramadan, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam came to the house of Fatima and Imam Ali to congratulate them on their newborn child. He took Imam Al-Hassan, he held him, he said the adhan in his right ear and the iqamah in his left ear, and then he asked Imam Ali, what is the name of this child? Imam Ali alayhi salam said, Ya Rasulullah, how could I name him before you? I waited for you to name him. And Rasulullah stated, how can I name him before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Let's wait for Allah to name him. Jibreel came down. He said, Ya Rasulullah, Inna al-Aliyu al-A'la yuqru'uka as-salam wa yaqul Inna Ali minka bimanzilati Harun min Musa sammihi bismi waladi Harun. Jibreel said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends his peace and blessings upon you. He congratulates you, and he says that Ali to you is the same as Aaron to Musa. So name the son of Ali after the son of Harun. Rasulullah said, what was his name? He said his name was Shubbar. Rasulullah said, but I don't speak Assyrian. I speak Arabic. He said, then name him Hassan. Hassan is the Arabic word for Shubbar. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi named him Hassan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I want someone, cut the echo please if you can. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam had a very special relationship with his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Rasulullah had a special love for his first and eldest grandchild, Imam Al-Hassan. One narration says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi one day left the masjid with a group of his companions. He was walking in the street he saw 3-year-old Al-Hassan playing out on the street. Rasulullah held out his arms and he started chasing after Imam Al-Hassan, playing with him. Playing with his grandson Imam Al-Hassan, and he ignored his companions. Some of his companions were offended. How can Rasulullah ignore us and pay attention to his grandson? Rasulullah held Imam Al-Hassan, he embraced him, and he said, Hasanun minni wa ana min Hasan. Similarly to the hadith regarding his brother, Imam Al-Hossein alayhi salam. So the same exact hadith we have regarding Imam Al-Hassan. Hasanun minni wa ana min Hasan. Ahabba Allah man ahabbahu. Hassan is from me and I am from him. And Allah loves the one who loves Hassan. And in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, a narration from Rasulullah narrated by Abu Hurairah, that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said regarding Imam Al-Hassan, Wallah inni uhibbuhu. By God, I love him. Wa ahabba man yuhibbuhu. And I love whoever loves him. This is in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. That Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam loves Imam Al-Hassan and he loves whoever loves Imam Al-Hassan. So inshallah we are all part of this hadith, and that Rasulullah loves us because we love Imam Al-Hassan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When Rasulullah was about to die or before his death, Fatima al-Zahra asks Rasulullah to leave inheritance for her sons Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein. Now when Fatima al-Zahra is asking for inheritance, she wasn't talking about money or cash or lands. She didn't expect her father to leave any estates for her children. She wanted something else. And indeed, she found something else. Rasulullah said, as for my grandson Al-Hassan, وَأَمَّا الْحَسَنْ فَلَهُ هَيْبَتِي وَسُؤْدَدِي. My grandson Hassan will have my nobility, my majesty, and my grandeur. Meaning, the same way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was majestic, so was Imam Al-Hassan. He was described as being a king. He had the majesty of a king, but not the wealth of a king. He wasn't an emperor. He didn't own lands. He wasn't as rich as a king, but he had the nobility of a king. Wasil ibn Ata, the head of the Mu'tazili school of thought, he says, كان الحسن عليه سيماء الأنبياء وبهاء الملوك. Imam Al-Hassan had two types of qualities, sometimes contradicting. He had the qualities of prophets and of kings. He had the humbleness of prophets and the majesty of kings and emperors. Historians say that if Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam would sit at his porch, he would sit in front of his house, and his house would be on a road. People would stop passing by because Imam Al-Hassan was so majestic. People were embarrassed to pass by and be seen by Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. They would stop. The roads would close. He had the features of prophets and kings. Yet at the same time, Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam was very humble, was very down to earth. One day he passed by a group of needy, poor, homeless people. They were sitting on the ground eating food. They saw Imam Al-Hassan. They invited him to join them and eat with them. The Imam didn't say no. He sat down and he started eating with them. When some of his companions, they stared at him as if saying, "What are you doing? Sitting on the ground with a group of poor people eating." The Imam could read their faces He told them, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ. Allah does not like the arrogant. If you're arrogant enough not to sit with humble, poor people on the ground, Allah does not like such people. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ. Among his qualities was that he was tolerant and patient. Imam Al-Hassan was never angry. He was never seen in the state of anger or becoming angry. Thank you very much. One day, a man from Damascus comes to Medina, and during those days, the ruler of Damascus was Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, who made it a tradition in Damascus and in every other city in the Islamic nation for a scholar or any speaker who would come up on the minbar or podium to speak, he can't finish his speech if he doesn't curse Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and his children. For 70 years, Muawiyah set a tradition of cursing Imam Ali during Friday sermons. A man raised up in such an environment, grew up in such an environment, comes from Medina to Damascus. He comes to the masjid and he finds Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. Imam Al-Hassan, he was distinguishable. He didn't look like everyone else. These are the grandchildren of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. You can tell they are different from the nur and the light in their face. He asked about him. They said, this is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This man from Damascus, from Sham, he came, he stood in front of Imam Al-Hassan, and he began cursing him. He started using foul language and began cursing the Imam and cursing his father to the Imam's face. The Imam remained quiet. He remained silent. When the man finished, the Imam smiled to him and he said, perhaps you're a stranger. Perhaps you're not from around here. Perhaps you need a place to stay. Perhaps you need someone to lend you some money. Perhaps you need someone to give you directions. If you're a stranger and you need a place to stay, we will offer you a place to stay. If you need money, we'll offer you money. If you need directions, we'll offer you directions. And if you will do us a favor and move to my house for a few days, it will be my honor. The man thought that the Imam is deaf, that he didn't hear what he had said to him. He told him, did you hear what I said? The Imam said, yes. And did you hear what I said to you? The Imam starts crying. He falls on the hands of Imam Al-Hassan. He embraces it. And he says, and he told him, just an hour ago, you and your father were the most hated people to me. But now you and your father are the closest people to my heart. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is proof, my dear friends, that you can call people to your way, to your school of thought. You can call people to your madhab, not necessarily through books, through pamphlets, and through lectures. Can you hear me? Because I can't hear myself. Hajj Marwan, is this a goodbye present? Yeah, the echo off this. But if you can raise the volume a little bit. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is the biggest proof that you can call people to your school of thought, to your madhab, not necessarily through lectures, not necessarily through books and pamphlets and articles. You can call them through your actions and through your behavior and through your manners, how you deal with people, how you treat others, how much respect you give to others. You can call them to your school of thought. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam would tell his companions, he would say, behave in a way so that when I die, people won't say, may God curse Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq. People would say, may Allah bless Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq for raising such students, such followers. He would tell his companions, don't let people curse me because of your actions. Sometimes this is what we do. We let people curse our imams and curse our school of thought and curse our Islam and religion because of our actions, because of what we do. No, my dear friends, we can do a lot through our actions. A few youth on the night of 13th of Rajab, just 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago, we're in Ramadan now. 2 months ago, 13th of Rajab marks the birthday of whom? That should be part of the essay thing, the quiz thing for Hajj. 13th of Rajab, my dear brothers and sisters, is the birthday of Imam Ali alayhi salam. A group of youth from the UK in London, on the 13th of Rajab, they took food and they started passing it out to the homeless people in London. This is a very beautiful gesture. And they did it in the name of Imam Ali. They gave packages of food to the homeless, and on the package it says, in remembrance of a man by the name of Imam Ali alayhi salam. This is beautiful. This is the best way you can call people to your school of thought. Doesn't necessarily need to be through lectures and speeches, my dear friends. Sometimes it's through actions. The Imam sets this example. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As for the Imam's spirituality and righteousness, historians say when the Imam would stand to pray, his face would turn yellow, his face would turn pale, and he would start shaking and shivering. They would ask him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, is there something wrong with you? Why are you pale? Why is your face so pale? Why are you shaking? He would say, حَقٌّ عَلَى كُلِّ مَنْ وَقَفَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ أَنْ يَصْفَرَّ لَوْنُهُ وَتَرْتَعِدَ مَفَاصِلُهُ. He said, if someone truly knew what he was doing, standing in front of Allah, speaking to Allah, the same thing would happen to him. But unfortunately, most of us, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what this action means. For those of us that pray, we don't know what this action means, the essence of this salah and of this prayer. When he would reach the door of the masjid, he would take his time. He wouldn't rush. He would stand at the door and he would have a couple of words with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would say, Ilahi ضيفك ببابك. My Lord, your guest is at your doorstep. Ya muhsinu qad ataka al-musi. Anta al-muhsinu wa ana al-musi. فتجاوز عن قبيح ما عندي بجميل ما عندك. Oh, good doer, an evil doer is at your doorstep. So do good unto him and show him your generosity. Historians say whenever the name of death was mentioned in front of Imam Al-Hassan, he would start crying. Whenever someone would mention the Day of Judgment, he'd start crying. Whenever someone would mention the two angels that question us in our graves, Imam Al-Hassan would start weeping and crying. Historians say that Imam Al-Hassan walked 20 or 25 times, there's two narrations, 20 or 25 times with his brother Imam Al-Hussein from Medina to Mecca for Hajj. They walked. Even though they owned cattle, they had horses, they had camels. And sometimes their camels would be riding with them. They'd be walking with them during this journey. Yet they would prefer to walk. And sometimes they'd walk barefoot towards Mecca. Historians mention that Imam Al-Hassan, twice he split his money in half. He kept one half and he gave the other half for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Twice. قَاسَمَ اللَّهُ مَالَهُ. It means he looked at all of his belongings, his lands, his cash, his estates, whatever he owned, he kept half of it and the other half he gave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did this once. After a couple of years, he did it again. Divided his money into two. He kept one half and he gave the other half for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Among his qualities that is rarely discussed, the courage of Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. Sometimes we discuss the courage of Imam Al-Hussein and what he did on the day of Ashura, and some people think that Imam Al-Hassan was a pacifist, that Imam Al-Hassan was a coward, that he remained at home. He wasn't a man of war. This is not correct. Imam Al-Hassan was very courageous. During the battles that were led by Imam Ali alayhi salam, during the days of Imam Ali, the battles of Siffin, Jamal and Nahrawan, the one who led the army was his son Imam Al-Hassan. He would carry his banner. He carried his banner. And during the battle of Jamal, read about the battle of Jamal. Read about the history of Imam Ali alayhi salam. A very interesting history. Such an oppressed man. Imam Ali was oppressed. He was oppressed by history. He was oppressed by his enemies. He was oppressed by his followers. Until today, he's oppressed. Read about his history. Imam Al-Hassan led the battle of Jamal. He went to the camel and he helped defeat the enemy at the battle of Jamal. To the point that Imam Ali alayhi salam had to tell some of his companions that secure my son Imam Al-Hassan, follow him. He set bodyguards for him. He said, because my son Imam Al-Hassan, when he enters the battlefield, he doesn't look back. All he does is look in front. I'm afraid for him. I'm afraid someone would kill him. He set bodyguards for his son, Imam Al-Hassan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam Al-Hassan was also oppressed. And there is an accusation against Imam Al-Hassan that his enemies have talked about, historians have talked about, and unfortunately there are some scholars from the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt that also discuss this issue. Imam Al-Hassan was accused of marrying too many times and divorcing too many times. Some historians say that Imam Al-Hassan married over 100 women and divorced all these women. And they fabricate a story that Imam Al-Hassan passed by a group of women and he said, which one would like to be the wife of the grandson of Rasulullah? They all looked to him and they said, Yabna Rasulullah, we were all married to you and we've all been divorced by you. This is a cheap shot at the Imam. It's obviously a fabricated story. To the point, they fabricate such stories to the point they say that Imam Ali alayhi salam came up on the podium and he said, لا تزوجوا ابني الحسن فإنه مطلاق. Don't give your daughters to my son Al-Hassan because he keeps marrying and divorcing. They say the best way to defame him is to fabricate a hadith that his father said, don't give your daughters to my son Imam Al-Hassan. My dear friends, this was Umayyad propaganda. This was a cheap shot. And the whole purpose was to defame Imam Al-Hassan. Why? Because some of the sons of Imam Al-Hassan led revolutions against Bani Umayyah, just like Imam Hossein. Imam Hossein led a battle, a revolution against Bani Umayyah, Yazid mainly. Some of the children of Imam Al-Hassan followed his footsteps, followed the footsteps of their uncle, and they led revolutions. To discredit the children of Imam Al-Hassan, Bani Umayyah came up with a couple of rumors. One was that Abu Talib, the father of Imam Ali, died a what? A mushrik, a kafir. The father of Imam Ali died a mushrik. While Abu Sufyan, the father of Muawiyah, died a believer, a Muslim. Have you seen anything more ridiculous than this? The father of Imam Ali dies a mushrik, and the father of Muawiyah dies a mu'min. The only motive behind such rumor was to discredit Imam Al-Hassan and his children. This was one rumor. The other rumor was that Imam Al-Hassan would marry too much and divorce too much. Proof that this was only a defamation act and there was just a false rumor is that this rumor spread 100 years after the death of Imam Al-Hassan, not right away. This was one. Number two, it was spread by a judge appointed by Al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi, one of the Khulafa of Bani al-Abbas, over 100 years after the death of Imam Al-Hassan. Al-Mansur al-Dawaniqi was known for his hatred for the Ahlul Bayt. He was known for his hatred for specifically Imam Al-Hassan and Imam Al-Hussein. And thirdly, if Imam Al-Hassan had married so many times, where are his children? There are a lot of Sada, Sayyids on this earth, on this planet. Most of them are either from Imam Al-Kadhim, they are Musawi, or Imam Al-Hussein, they are Husseini. And there are some from the children of Imam Al-Hassan, but they're very rare to find. If Imam Al-Hassan had married so many women, where are his grandchildren? His grandchildren would have been the most. And number four, divorce is something hated in Islam, as we talked about in our past lectures. Divorce is something ugly in Islam. It's allowed, but it's highly discouraged. Is it possible for any imam to perform this act over 100 times? No one accepts this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As for his benevolence, generosity, and manners, one day Imam Al-Hassan passes by a garden. He sees a young slave, a young man, slave, working at a garden, who was eating a small loaf of bread. This sight broke the heart of Imam Al-Hassan. He told him, who do you work for? And what do you do? He said, Yabna Rasulullah, I am a slave for the owner of this garden, this farm, and I work as a farmer and a guard at this farm. Imam Al-Hassan went inside, he spoke to the owner, he bought the farm, he bought the slave, he set the slave free, and he gave the farm to the slave. This was Imam Al-Hassan. This was his benevolence. This was his generosity. This was his manners. One day, two men, one from Bani Hashim and one man from Bani Umayyah, and everyone knows that these two families, these two tribes, there was animosity between them. There was competition. There was hatred between these two tribes. A man from Bani Hashim and a man from Bani Umayyah, they got in an argument over whose family is more generous. Whose family is more generous? So they said, you know what? Each of us, let's go back to our family. Let's try to collect 10,000 dirhams from 10 men from our family. So the man from Bani Umayyah would go to 10 men from Bani Umayyah, collect from each man 10,000 dirhams, and come back with 100,000. And so too with the man from Bani Hashim. The man from Bani Hashim quickly rushed to whom? He rushed to Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam. All he told him was, give me 10,000 dirhams. The Imam didn't tell him for what reason, what is the cause. He gave him 150,000 dirhams, not 10,000. And then he told him, go to my brother Imam Al-Hussein. Imam Hussein also gives him 150,000 dirhams. The man had made already 300,000. He goes back to the man from Bani Umayyah. He said, I made 300,000 from only two men from Bani Hashim. He won the argument. He proved that Bani Hashim were more generous from Bani Umayyah. Now he came back to Imam Al-Hassan after he proved his point. He came back to give him the money. He told him this was the case, this was the story, here's your money back. The Imam said, no, now it's yours. You get to keep that money. Once the money comes out of our pocket, it doesn't come back to us. You get to keep that money. As we said, Imam Al-Hassan alayhi salam is very oppressed. history oppressed Imam Al-Hassan. Because some say, why did Imam Al-Hassan perform a ceasefire and a peace treaty with Muawiyah, while his brother Imam Al-Hussein fights the son of Muawiyah, Yazid? He fought him and he sacrificed his life. But why did Imam Al-Hassan make a ceasefire, a peace treaty, and he conceded his right to power? He conceded his right to the Khilafah. He sat home and he allowed Muawiyah to become the Khalifa. Some saw this as a humiliation. And some of the followers of Imam Al-Hassan, they came to him, some of his closest companions and followers, they came to him, and when they gave their salam, they said, Assalamu alayka ya mudhill al-mu'minin. Peace be upon the one who humiliated believers. Such harshness, such disrespect. Yet the Imam had a plan. The Imam knew what he was doing. In fact, if it wasn't for the Imam's ceasefire and peace treaty with Muawiyah, Imam al-Hussein would have never had his revolution take place against Muawiyah, against Yazid. Imam al-Hassan was deceived by his own people, by his own army. Imam al-Hassan had an army, and he was willing to fight Muawiyah. He was willing to fight tyranny and oppression by Muawiyah. Yet he was deceived. Historians say that his own cousin, Ubaydullah ibn Abbas, was bought off by Muawiyah. Muawiyah bought him. And he got him to join his army. This is a cousin of Imam al-Hassan. Is there oppression greater than this? The Imam replaces Ubaydullah ibn Abbas with another general. Muawiyah buys off that other general. Imam al-Hassan replaces the second general with a third. Muawiyah again buys him off. Muawiyah started buying off Imam al-Hassan's closest companions, followers, and army generals. He was left with no army. He had to concede to Muawiyah. One day, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, during Salah, was shot. He was shot with an arrow in his foot because Muawiyah was trying to assassinate him. At another time, Imam al-Hassan was sitting with a group of companions. A man stabbed him with a dagger in his thigh. From then on, Imam al-Hassan began wearing a shield under his shirt out of protection because his life was in danger. And the greatest oppression of all, the one who oppressed Imam al-Hassan the most, was his wife Ju'da. When she was fooled by Muawiyah, Muawiyah sends her a message. He told her, give poison to your husband Al-Hassan, and if he dies, I will allow you to marry my son Yazid. And he promised her with wealth and to be the wife of Yazid, the future Khalifa, the future king. Ju'da takes the money, and she takes the poison, and she gives it to Imam al-Hassan, and Imam al-Hassan dies. After that, after the death of Imam al-Hassan, she sent a message to Muawiyah that, where's your promise? You promised me that your son Yazid will marry me, and I will become your daughter-in-law. He said, yeah, I thought about that. I gave it some thought, but I realized that if I was able to buy you off and bribe you and get you to poison your husband, and who's your husband? The grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Someone, maybe the greatest person during his time. Well, who said that once you become the wife of my son Yazid, someone won't bring you money and buy you off as well, and you'll give poison to my son Yazid? And so she lost. She lost her husband, she lost Yazid, she lost this dunya and the akhirah. Imam al-Hassan was on his deathbed. A man comes to him on his deathbed, ready to die. A man comes to him and he says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, adhni. Give me words of admonishment. Give me words of advice. Imam al-Hassan didn't say no. He didn't say, this is time for me to rest. Let me die peacefully. The Imam says, yes, na'am, I will. And then he begins, استعد لسفرك وحصل زادك قبل حلول أجلك. Begin for your journey. Begin preparing for your journey before your name is called. What journey? The journey of the hereafter, the next life. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّكَ تَطْلُبُ الدُّنْيَا وَالْمَوْتُ يَطْلُبُكَ. And know that you are chasing after dunya while death is chasing after you. You're running after dunya, but death is running after you. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الدُّنْيَا فِي حَلَالِهَا حِسَابٌ وَفِي حَرَامِهَا عِقَابٌ وَفِي الشُّبُهَاتِ عِتَابٌ. And know that in this dunya, things that are halal you'll be asked about, and things that are haram you'll be punished for, and things that you're not so sure about, you'll be scolded and you will be judged. Why did you perform those things? وَاعْمَلْ لِدُنْيَاكَ كأنك تعيش أبدا وَاعْمَلْ لآخرتك كأنك تموت غدا. And work for your hereafter as if you're dying tomorrow, as if you're told you're going to die tomorrow. Prepare for your next life, and prepare for this life as if you're never going to die. Imam Al-Hassan said these words and he passed away. He moved to the next life. Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, before his death, he tells his brother Imam Al-Hussein, make sure that when you bury me, not a single drop of blood is shed because of me. Imam Al-Hussein takes the corpse of his brother Imam Al-Hassan to the house of Rasulullah to be buried next to the body of his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet one of the wives of Rasulullah comes out and she says, I will not allow you to bury the son of Bani Hashim in my house. In my house. All of a sudden it became her house. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had 9 wives, yet this house became her house. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, when he saw that Imam al-Hussein wanted to bury his brother next to the grave of Rasulullah, he ordered his soldiers to shoot the body of Imam al-Hassan. They started shooting him with arrows. Imam al-Hussein turns with his brother Al-Abbas. Al-Abbas was about to wage war. He was about to take out his sword. Imam al-Hussein tells him, Ya Abbas, put your sword back in. Today's not the day. You have another day ahead of you. There's another day in which you'll be able to use your sword. Today is not the day. He put his sword back in. They went to Al-Baqi'. He was about to bury the body of Imam al-Hassan. He counted the arrows that Imam al-Hassan was shot with, and they saw that he was shot with 72 arrows. 72 arrows. Imam al-Hassan was oppressed. Imam al-Hassan, till today, he's oppressed. Go to his grave. All the other imams, they have shrines, they have mausoleums, they have a respected place where you can sit, kiss their shrine, sit, and pay your, offer your respect and your salam to the Imam, except Imam al-Hassan. You go and you see that his grave is leveled with the ground. May Allah curse whoever destroyed that grave and the rest of the graves of the Imams. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the intercession of Imam al-Hassan and to grant us his ziyarah in this life, insha'Allah. I thank my dear brothers and sisters, the ones who've been very patient with me for the past 15 nights, who've attended and listened very attentively for the past 15 nights. May Allah bless you. I'd like to thank the organizers at the Young Muslim Association for having me and for being patient with me. May Allah bless you all. I ask for you to keep me in your prayers, especially during the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. Some blessed nights are coming. Keep me in your prayers, and inshallah you will all be in my dua, especially when I go back to Karbala. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi al-Tahirin.